Hello and welcome to the 12 Days of Christmas series. My name is Joanna Daniel. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. And we're doing this 12 Days of Christmas just to prepare you for the holiday seasons. But first, I want to tell you some things about Wounds to Scars, where we work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse. And we do that through conferences, retreats, and online courses. We also have a very special group, and I'll put all the details in the comment section below. I'm really glad that you're here and that you're enjoying this series. Thank you for those who have viewed and have shared the videos. Really appreciate you. So today I want to continue the conversation that I did 2 days in a row around the inner child. And so today I'll kind of end that conversation around 3 ways to protect your inner child. And I wanted to specifically included that conversation in this 12 Days of Christmas series because you might be going home, you might be this time of year thinking about connecting or contacting family. Sometimes the harm, the abuse that you experience may have happened in those systems, in those places that were supposed to be safe. And so it's really important to pay attention to the child that the wound happened to, because sometimes when we grow up, we can feel like, and I hear this a lot, well, you're grown now, you're older now, shouldn't you move on? Just forgive, and all of those kind of things. But the age that the wound happened hasn't changed. And so it's important to pay attention to what might be going on, because sometimes we're triggered and our nervous system is not regulated and we don't understand, we don't know why. And sometimes I describe triggers sometimes as like an earthquake. It starts with a tremor and then it gets out of hand. And so before anything starts to fall, we want to know what is it, what's going on, so that we can do something about it. So 3 ways to protect your inner child, especially if you're going home and you're going to run into, you think, maybe the abuser, or you're from a family system where it's not healthy, and you might struggle with your boundaries. You might struggle with speaking up for yourself. You might struggle with being assertive. You might struggle with expressing yourself because your opinion was never valid. It was never welcome. It was never valued. And so all of those things might be going on. You might find that when you go home, you resort to childlike behaviors and you're frustrated with yourself. You might not like it. So it's really important to know, well, why do I do that? Why do I resort to those kind of behaviors? So the first one I want to share, and of course, there are many ways to protect your inner child, to protect yourself, really. To be aware of the triggers and to know what to do. But I'm just going to share 3 in this video today. So number 1 is, it's important to know when you're triggered. So I always ask people, so who experienced that? Who felt that? Was that you, the adult, that needed that? Or was it the child who never had whatever you never had? Whether it was the child who was abandoned, the child who never was heard, the child who wasn't hugged, the child who never experienced safe touch, the child who was never valued, the child who was never taught or affirmed. And so there are many things that can trigger you when that's your story, right? And so it's important to know, is it the adult that feels like this, or is it the child? If it's the adult, if it's you, that you're very aware, you understand yourself, you understand your triggers, and you know when you're triggered. And if it's you that is in that place, then it's important to know the difference, right? So when you figure out who is triggered, then you know what to do in order to feel better, to not to suppress it, not to press it down, not to ignore it, but to what to do to look after it. So it's kind of like if you hurt your leg, and it hurts, and every now and again it hurts, and you know what to do. So you might bandage it, you might wear a knee brace. You might get somebody you might get a massage. You might need to go to A&E. All of those things you'll do because you know how to minister to your hurt leg, right? And so it's the same way when your heart has been hurt, when you've experienced trauma and pain. It's really important to know, what does it feel like? Is it heavy? Is it light? What does it feel like? What's the texture? Where does it hurt? Where can I locate that in my body? And then know what to do. If it's in your chest, your shoulders, your back, your head's fuzzy, your your mind's not clear. So different place, it will affect us different places in our body, and it will feel differently for different people. But so the first thing to know is know when you're triggered and know what to do to feel better. So because you might be triggered right in the middle of family lunch on Christmas Day, or the walk that everybody wants to go to after brunch, or whatever it is, when somebody come over, or when you run into a particular relative, right? And so number two is listen, learn how to listen to your body, learn how to, I just talked about locating the pain. So when you locate it, you have to learn how to listen to your body in order to locate the pain where it is. Like I just did a podcast on give yourself joy, do more things that gives you joy. Now, in order for you to do that, and you have to learn to listen to yourself and to not ignore. So sometimes we use different things to drown out our own voice, to drown out our feelings. We use food, we use busyness, we use activity, sometimes good activity, sometimes not so good activities. We use activities to keep us occupied so we can't hear. But we want to, in order to minister to the triggers, in order to identify it, you need to be able to listen to your body. Where is it? What's going on in your body? Is there butterflies in your stomach? Is your shoulders tense? And when you learn how to listen to yourself and hear yourself, then you know what to do in order to feel better. And this is all about practicing good coping strategies so that you can feel better. It's not about suppressing it or pretending it's not happening. We want to know that it's happening, and we want to know what to do to feel better. Okay. You might listen and you feel tears in your tummy and it's bubbling up. And so you need to sit with that for a bit, and you need to cry. You need to find a place that is safe, and you need to have a good cry, and then you'd be okay again, right? You might need to have a good stamping up a hill to do some activity that raises your heart rate so that you can feel better, okay? And number three is give yourself what is needed. Give yourself what is needed. So what do you need? You might need rest. When you're listening, I talked about some things that you might need to do. You might just need rest. You might need to relax with a good book, some music. You might need some peace and quiet time. You might need to not be in the thick of everything. You might need to take yourself away for a little bit. It's really important to know that you're an adult, okay? And you can make choices. You can make choices that you couldn't make when you were a child. So you might be in the middle of the family game that is happening, or the middle of dinner and there's an argument that broke out. You might be ignored, or your opinion wasn't listened to. There's so many things that might trigger you, might trigger your younger self, your inner child, those memories, because you remember when you weren't heard. You remember what that felt like. And so when you're triggered, you're feeling as if it's happening right now. Okay. So that's it's important to know. So it's important to know that so you can give yourself what you need. So as I said, you have choices, you have options that you never had as a 5-year-old, that you never had as a 10-year-old. When you were a child, you had to sit at that table and eat your carrots, right? Or your broccoli, or whatever it is. You had to sit and endure what was going on. You had to listen to the adults, and you had to do what they say. But now you're an adult. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. I want you to know that you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. So you can, if you know when you're triggered and you're learning how to listen to your body, you can get up from that table. You can excuse yourself. You can leave the gathering. You can go home early. You can do any number of things. You can state your opinion. You can state your boundary. You can enforce your boundary. You can choose to not listen to certain conversation. You can shut down the questions. There's so many options that are available to you that you can use. Now, maybe some of us are from different cultures, and in some cultures we're taught how to listen to grown-ups and adults, and they struggle to make the transition between you being a child and you being an adult. So there might be people who want to speak to you in tones that they used when you were 2 and when you were 5. It was disrespectful then, and it's disrespectful now. But you can choose to whether or not you're engaging with that or not. Are you engaged with those people or not? So you may not want to exercise the choices that you have, but I want you to know that you have them, right? So if you know that you have the choices, you might not want to exercise it, but you have it. So as long as you know that you have it, you can choose to use it whenever it feels right for you. So those are the three things that you need to be aware of if you're going to go home and interact with people that, have been harmful in the past to you. Number one is know when you're triggered, and number two, listen to your body, listen to yourself, listen to what you need, and number three is give yourself what you need. Give yourself what you need. Learn to not ignore the triggers. Learn to not ignore what your heart needs in order to feel better. It's really important to hear that, to know it, and to give yourself what you need. I'll see you on tomorrow's 12th day of Christmas.